just happened in Venezuela and what could come next? The man talks. This is talking about what Trump dumbass just did, I guess, capturing the president of Venezuela. Then I heard recently they dropped nukes on them, which is very unfortunate. I'm not 100% sure about what's going on. And if he was here, I was just saying that like I don't get my news from like the news. Like I go on YouTube, Twitter, what I see is what I see, so I don't get the full insight of things. So this is basically just me trying to get my little what's going on in the world and share that with y'all, you feel me? Because not everybody be caught up on current events. What Trump dumbass did now.
What a way to start 2026, huh? Happy New Year, everyone. Apologies for the brief hiatus from me. I caught the flu and then it was the holidays and then I went on vacation, but I'm back now. And fun fact, I was actually flying back home from vacation and when I landed at the airport, I opened my phone to see that the United States had full-on bombed Venezuela. So let's talk about that, shall we?
Crazy.
I had another video in the works, but that can be put on hold for a bit. For now, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about what actually happened, what could be coming from this, and just try to break down what it all means. So first and foremost, what actually happened? Well, in the early morning hours of Saturday, January 3rd, the United States carried out what's being officially referred to as a special military.
President Trump says the United States carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela. He said in his social media post that he will host a news conference in Mar-a-Lago at 11 a.m.
Operation to capture Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. The operation began with strikes on military bases, an airport, a seaport, and other key points of operation for the Venezuelan military, who seemed to be caught completely off guard. Allegedly, no civilian areas were targeted, but civilians are apparently being included in a total death count, which as of recording this has reportedly reached 80 people, though that number still could rise. At the same time, US special forces were actually on the ground and captured both Maduro and his wife, allegedly breaking into their bedroom while they were sleeping to take them. Maduro was then taken by ship to Guantanamo Bay and was then flown to the state of New York for his trial.
Bro, that's insane. I'm gonna keep it a whole buck, bro. Bro, isn't this the same nigga that was sitting there singing or whatever? He was copping pleas or whatever, bro. What did these niggas actually do? Because the only thing I've seen is that Trump was trying to say that Venezuela was using the ports or the government as a front in order to smuggle drugs or whatever, but I don't think that was ever came out as like concrete proof. But I also heard something saying that it's all a front because basically they're trying to get their oil, or I don't know. I hope he goes into like what actually is causing this shit, because even earlier I didn't seen that he's been talking about invading Greenland now. Like this shit is just getting wild, bro. Like, we be on chills, bro. Like, I don't know what the fuck this nigga doing. And if any Venezuelan people out there, bro, my heart goes out to y'all. This shit is wild.
It's currently being held in jail there. Hang on, pause for a second. What trial am I even referring to here? And who even is Nicolas Maduro? Those are both great questions. For starters, Nicolas Maduro had been the leader of Venezuela since 2013, after he won the presidential election following the death of former Venezuelan president Hugo Chavez. Now, it's important to note that Maduro is not a good dude by any means. He was pretty commonly viewed as a dictator by most, and even remained in power despite losing the most recent presidential election in Venezuela last year. Many Venezuelans were celebrating the capture of Maduro after it happened. I'm not saying this justifies the actions of the United States. I'm not really going to get into that whole debate. I just felt it was worth mentioning. But anyway,
I ain't gonna lie, that changed everything. See, this is why you go out your way to find your sources. I didn't know that he's been acting like a dictator. I didn't know none of that. Still, it's crazy how they just been bombing everything, but I ain't know none of that. That's crazy. I mean, shit. Good job. Y'all got the nigga.
About this trial. Well, way back in 2020, under the first Trump administration, the Department of Justice officially charged Maduro and 14 other high-ranking Venezuelan officials with narco-terrorism, corruption, drug trafficking, and other criminal charges. According to the official press release at the time, former U.S. Attorney General William Barr said, quote, "Today's announcement is focused on rooting out the extensive corruption within the Venezuelan government, a system constructed and controlled to enrich those at the highest levels of the government. The United States will not allow these corrupt Venezuelan officials to use the U.S. banking system to move their illicit proceeds from South America nor further their criminal schemes." And now, just under 6 years later, they just went in and got the guy. And it was those charges that we saw the U.S. government use to justify it. For example, Attorney General Pam Bondi posted on X, quote, "Nicolas Maduro has been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices against the United States. They will soon face the full wrath of American justice on a American soil in American courts. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance posted, quote,
I didn't
PSA
even-
for everyone saying this was illegal. Maduro has multiple indictments in the United States for narco-terrorism. You don't get to avoid justice for drug trafficking in the United States because you live in a palace in Caracas. We really
That's crazy. No, if this is true, that's wild. But even if so, that's not the job of the United States, is it? Right? Well, I mean, unless the parts about him, like the conspiracy to commit acts of violence, but wouldn't that be like a job for the UN or whatever? Is it, or what's it called? It's the UN and there's something else. I don't know what the other thing is called. If you know, y'all could type it in the comments, look it up, let me know, whatever. But yeah, I didn't know that was like the U.S. could just go in there. That what was crazy to me. The fact that the U.S. could just go in there and take that nigga and dip. I
need to
didn't know
process,
that.
though, how insane what just happened is. It took just under 3 hours for the U.S. military to fly into a foreign country and literally take its highest-ranking official from his bed and then just leave. There were a few injuries to U.S. military personnel, but none of them were reportedly serious. Logistically, it seems like it was executed to just about perfection. The only issue is this obviously has bigger consequences. The United States does not have the best history with regime changes, to say the least. And unfortunately, it doesn't feel like the most likely outcome here is that Venezuela will all of a sudden become a free country that loves democracy and gives everyone a voice. We don't yet fully know what will come of the situation in Venezuela, though ideas have been floated. Initially, after the capture of Maduro, the leader of the opposition party in Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado, released a statement saying that they were ready to lead the country, and that Edmundo Gonzalez, who supposedly lost last year's very shady election to Maduro, would help lead as well. However, Trump didn't really seem to like that idea, saying in a press conference, quote, I think it'd be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect.
Okay, see, this is what I don't like. Trump, you're the president of the United States, not the president of the South American, whatever. Not of the Americas. You're not the president of the Americas, bro. We're talking about another country. You're talking about another country. You can't pick who goes as the leader in another country. And I'm pretty sure he's only saying this because whatever beliefs or whatever views or whatever she's about to do and over there doesn't line up politically with whatever his beliefs or whatever plans he got going on. AKA, if the shit about the oil is true, they not about to let him get that oil again. So that's what I don't like. That is a big ass red flag.
Note, it's also now being reported by the Washington Post that the reason why Trump didn't back Machado was because she accepted the Nobel Peace Prize, which Trump felt he was entitled to. So that's cool, I guess. But anyways, what's the plan here? Well, as of now, it seems like the United States is going to be heavily involved with whatever happens. Trump has come out and said that the US will govern Venezuela until there's a quote-unquote proper transition. Meanwhile, Venezuela's Supreme Court has officially appointed дэлси Rodriguez as acting president to lead the country. Who is дэлси Rodriguez?
Oh,
she
that's
was Maduro's
her.
vice president.
That's her.
So as of now, a full regime change hasn't even happened. Only Maduro is gone, and those who worked closely with him remain. Trump has said he's good with this choice, but has also implied that Rodriguez is on thin ice, saying that she will pay a bigger price than Maduro, quote, if she doesn't do what's right. Additionally, according to the New York Times, quote, U.S. officials say that their relationship with Ms. Rodriguez's interim government will be based on her ability to play by their rules, adding that they reserve the right to take additional military action if she fails to respect America's interests. But what might Trump and other U.S. officials be talking about here? Well, it's time we get into the economic impacts of all of this. If you didn't know, Venezuela's got oil, and they've got lots of it. To be more specific, Venezuela has the largest crude oil reserve on the planet, with an estimated 303 billion barrels sitting within its borders. However, the actual amount of oil being produced has dropped off sharply since the early 2000s, as former President Hugo Chavez and then the Maduro administration tightened control over the state-run oil company, which led to more experienced staff leaving. And this is exactly where Trump wants to get involved. He has already come out and said he wants to take control of Venezuela's oil industry, stating that U.S. companies will fix Venezuela's quote-unquote badly broken oil infrastructure and quote start making money for the country. According to BBC, quote, Chevron is the only American oil producer still active in Venezuela, after receiving a license under former President Joe Biden in 2022 to operate despite U.S. sanctions. The company, currently responsible for around a fifth of Venezuelan oil extraction, said it is focused on the safety of its employees and is complying with all relevant laws and regulations. Other major oil firms have been publicly silent on the plan so far, with only Chevron addressing the situation. So the plan here seems to be for the United States to overtake Venezuela's oil production and use it as their own. And if Venezuela's new leader does not cooperate with that, she'll apparently face a fate worse than Maduro. It's hard to
Exactly what the fuck I just said. Exactly what the fuck I just said. I knew it. Like, it don't take a genius to put all that shit together, bro. Keep it a buck. And it's not right, but it's not illegal either. I don't know how this shit works, but that shit is just crazy.
Overstate the economic impact here. According to the lik letter, Venezuela's total oil reserves are worth around $17.3 trillion, with current oil prices trading at 50.
Bro, aren't we like trillions in debt? So this is his, I guess this is his idea in order to get the U.S. out of debt. Let me just listen for a little bit, because I don't know politics like that. Let me just listen. Oh shit.
$7 per barrel. In other words, the United States just gained control of oil reserves worth more than the entire GDP of every country on Earth, aside from the US and China. It's an amount that's 4 times larger than the entire GDP of Japan. Of course, the cost of extracting the oil will play a large role, and the profit margins will be relatively low overall. But that doesn't change the fact that the United States literally gained access to billions of barrels of oil overnight. It's called liquid gold for a reason, folks. And now, we've got a quick update as of recording this. As of late Tuesday, January 6th, Trump officially announced on Truth Social that the United States will be receiving 30 to 50 million barrels of oil from the interim government of Venezuela, and that it would be sold at market price. He also said in the post, quote, "That money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States." To add to that, the New York Times has now reported that
I don't believe a goddamn word that nigga saying. That money about to go right into his pockets. That money about to go right into JD Vance's pockets. That shit about to go right in it. That gotta get cut. If it's like a little joint here, fuck. I'm not suicidal. In GTA.
the U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright.
I love life. I have no concerning medical issues. If anything happens to me, just know it was not of my own fruition. If that's the right word, I don't know. But some parts of this will be cut.
Said on Wednesday, January 7th, that the United States intends to maintain significant control on Venezuela's oil industry for an indefinite amount of time. If it wasn't evident before that this was at least in part about oil, it certainly is now. And things have escalated elsewhere too. As part of their campaign against Venezuela, the US military seized 2 oil tankers on January 7th, one of which was flying under a Russian flag. This tanker was seized in the North Atlantic between Scotland and Iceland, and the US military issued a statement saying that the reason for the seizure was because the tanker violated US sanctions. I'm sure this won't be the end of—
Hold on. What happened? What happened? My fault. I was still thinking about my big fuck up.
It's in part about oil, it certainly is now. And things have escalated elsewhere too. As part of their campaign against Venezuela, the US military seized 2 oil tankers on January 7th, one of which was flying under a Russian flag. This tanker was seized in the North Atlantic between Scotland and Iceland, and the US military issued a statement saying that the reason for the seizure was because the tanker violated US sanctions. I'm sure this won't be the end of that saga either, and it actually segues perfectly into the final point I wanted to make in this video. Before wrapping up this short breakdown, I do feel like I need to touch on the international response a bit, because that's obviously important too. Unsurprisingly, a number of foreign countries have commented on the United States' actions. While there were a few that celebrated the arrest of Maduro, such as Argentina, Peru, Israel, Ukraine, and Germany, many others, including close US allies, repudiated Maduro but demanded compliance with international law, such as Canada, France, and the rest of the European Union. Additionally, a multitude of countries condemned the attack outright and demanded a cease of military activity immediately, like China, Russia, Iran, Mexico, Colombia, Spain, and Switzerland. What I want to really focus on in this section, though, is what else the United States government has already said in the aftermath of its raid on Venezuela. For example, Trump has basically sent warnings to the governments of Mexico, Colombia, and Cuba that their countries could be next. On Cuba, he said, quote, "I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now. We want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but
You're not helping the people here. There's a food crisis. There's a homeless crisis. There's a job crisis. Like, what? Yo, I don't get it. Like, what? You talking about helping the people all the way over there, but you're not even helping the people here, my nigga. Yo, this shit is crazy. I don't get it. This shit is so simple. I'm done saying maybes and all that. There shouldn't be no complicated reason for all of that shit. He just said he wants to help the other Help your own fucking country first, my nigga. God damn.
We want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Trump has also accused both the governments of Mexico and Colombia of being run by drug cartels, and he doubled down on recent criticism of Colombian President Gustavo Petro, saying, quote, he's making cocaine, they're sending it into the United States, so he does have to watch his ass. Basically, this situation is far from over. Both Petro and Mexican...
So that's about to be a method, Trump? That's about to be a method? Accuse every president of being a fucking drug kingpin? That's about to be the method. Because from what he said, there's still no proof that the bull of Venezuela, the president of Venezuela, was ever pushing drugs. There's still no proof of that. Or I guess they didn't have the trial yet, but still, there's no definitive proof. You sunk every ship that they apparently was sending in here.
President Claudia Sheinbaum have rebuked Trump's claims, which is really the only thing they can do at the moment. Although Petro also took it a step further and virtually taunted Trump in a recent statement by saying, quote, come get me, I'm waiting. Anyways, before I wrap this video up, let's head north on the map really quick to talk about Greenland. Yes, Greenland. Trump has long sought after Greenland, and I even made a video about it a while back if you want to watch a deeper dive on that. For some reason though, Trump is now back to wanting Greenland again, even saying that the United States, quote, needs Greenland in a recent press conference. Why? It's gained enough attention that the Prime Minister of Denmark, Mette Frederiksen, recently put out a statement about it. In the statement, Frederiksen said, quote, if the United States decides to militarily attack another NATO country, then everything would stop. That NATO.
That's what I was thinking about. NATO. I forgot about that shit. It's the UN and NATO. I don't know how, bro. I don't want to get drafted, bro. I got 2 more years until I'm out of this shit. I'm not trying to get drafted. Keep it a whole, man. I'll go, but I'm not trying to,
for post-Second World War security. In other words, an attack on Greenland by the United States would mean the end of NATO as we know it. Global politics are shifting big time, everyone, so hang on tight. After the US's surprise attack on Venezuela, I personally wouldn't rule anything out. Things could get extremely crazy, extremely fast, or they could calm down and Trump could decide there are other things more worthwhile to pay attention to. I am not a foreign policy expert, and I also think it's impossible to predict what he might try to do next, so I'll leave it at that for today. If you enjoyed or learned something new, please feel free to like and subscribe. More videos coming soon.
Bro. How come every fucking year, at the beginning of the year, we already look like we about to go into World War III? How? I don't get it. Trump has been in office for 1 year, and we already might be going into World War twice.
If you want to read more about anything I discussed in today's video, feel free to check out my sources in the description down below. I'd highly recommend doing so if you have the time, as they may shine some more light on this whole situation. Finally, I took a hiatus from this as well, but I'm restarting my weekly newsletter over on Substack where
that's in the video. But yeah, I don't get it, bro. Shout out to bro. This was a good video. Trump. I can't say what I really want to say, but I just hope something happens. I do. I'm not gonna lie. In GTA, but shout out to bro. Get them going, coughing up the slugs. Niggas full of money, don't steal, it's not enough.